that far away from actually seeing Caitlin Clark playing actual real basketball. It's going to be interesting to see what the starting lineups look like. There's all kinds of agenda when it comes down to Team USA because of some of the leadership involved. Oh man, the starting lineups are going to be a story in themselves. To represent the U.S. in the 2026 FIBA World Cup qualifying from March 11th to the 17th. 1 month away, folks. Paige Bueckers, Sonia Centrom, Caitlin Clark, Kiki Arifin, and Angel Reese.
The 2026 World Cup qualifier roster marks the first time Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese will compete as teammates for USA Basketball. While the pairing of these former rivals has generated significant public interest, the team enters the San Juan tournament facing internal complications and high stakes as they pursue a fifth consecutive gold medal. Despite her prominence in the sport, Clark's position in the rotation is not guaranteed. She is returning from a difficult 2025 WNBA season, where she was limited to 13 appearances for the Indiana Fever due to persistent quad and groin injuries. In the physical environment of FIBA competition, lingering health issues remain a primary concern. Reports from early training camps suggest the coaching staff is monitoring whether she has regained the explosive movement necessary for her signature perimeter game. This uncertainty regarding Clark's health coincides with the rise of Paige Bueckers. Following a season where she earned WNBA Rookie of the Year honors, Bueckers has established herself as a highly efficient floor general. While the two were often compared during their collegiate careers, the current debate centers on immediate production. Bueckers enters the cycle healthy and playing at a high level, though her presence has also renewed discussions regarding long-standing institutional preferences within the program. The appointment of UConn legend Sue Bird as managing director has brought renewed scrutiny to the perceived Connecticut bias within USA Basketball. With Bird overseeing roster construction, critics have questioned whether the program will favor Bueckers' traditional, disciplined style over the high-volume shooting associated with Clark. If the leadership prioritizes veteran stability, the most recognizable player in the game could see a diminished role. The coaching structure adds another layer of instability. Head coach Kara Lawson is scheduled to depart mid-tournament to fulfill her commitments at Duke, leaving the team to be managed by the assistant staff. This transition creates a potential shift in tactical philosophy. Assistant Stephanie White, Clark's coach with the Fever, would likely utilize a system built around Clark's strengths, whereas Natalie Nakase of the Golden State Valkyries might implement a different approach. On-court chemistry remains an unproven factor. Beyond a brief collaboration during the WNBA All-Star Game, Clark and Reese have limited experience playing together in a high-stakes setting. Reese has been clear that the sport's growth is a collective effort, and she is focused on establishing her own identity within the national team framework. If the roster fails to find a functional rhythm, the internal competition for touches could compromise the team's performance. USA Basketball now manages a roster that is historically marketable but structurally fragile. The organization must balance the recovery of a superstar, the emergence of a talented challenger, and allegations of favoritism within its management. Whether the program relies on Clark's star power or shifts toward a more traditional rotation, the results in Puerto Rico will serve as a definitive test for this era of the national team. The logistical preparation for San Juan reveals a program grappling with the weight of its own success. While the spotlight remains fixed on the roster, the infrastructure supporting these athletes is under immense pressure to maintain a standard of excellence that has lasted decades. USA Basketball has long operated on the principle of sacrifice, expecting players to set aside their individual brands for the collective pursuit of gold. However, the 2026 cycle is different. Each player now arrives with a massive digital footprint and personal commercial interests that often rival the scale of the organization itself. The training facilities in the lead-up to the qualifiers have become high-security environments, reflecting the unprecedented security needs required for this specific group. The presence of Clark and Reese together has necessitated a doubling of the usual security detail, a logistical reality that consumes a significant portion of the tournament budget. Within these walls, the focus remains on the playbook, yet the atmosphere is described by those present as businesslike, to the point of tension. The coaching staff is tasked with integrating several different basketball philosophies: the high-paced, transition-heavy style of the Fever, the physical, interior-focused game of the Sky, and the structured half-court sets favored by the UConn-influenced contingent. The tactical challenge lies in the backcourt. If the staff moves toward a lineup featuring both Clark and Bueckers, the defensive assignments become problematic. International guards are increasingly physical, often using a bump-and-grind style of defense that FIBA referees are less likely to whistle than WNBA officials. There are concerns that a backcourt focused on playmaking and shooting might be bullied by the veteran, defensive-minded squads of Europe and South America. This is where players like Angel Reese become essential. Her ability to anchor the glass and provide a physical deterrent in the paint is the necessary counterbalance to a finesse-oriented perimeter. Financial analysts watching the sport note that the stakes of this qualifier extend beyond the box score. The broadcast rights for the 2026 qualifiers were sold at a premium based on the assumption that the big three of Clark, Reese, and Bookers would be active and featured. A benching or a limited minute restriction for any of them would not only frustrate fans but could lead to a friction point between the federation and its commercial partners. The pressure on Sue Bird to manage these optics while adhering to a win-first mentality is substantial. As the team prepares to depart for Puerto Rico, the Golden Era narrative is being tested by the reality of professional sports, injury, ego, and the logistics of power. Every practice clip is scrutinized for signs of friction, every substitution is analyzed for hidden meaning, and every win is expected to be a blowout. In this environment, the greatest opponent for Team USA might not be the teams they face on the court, but the internal and external pressures of their own making. The regional competition in Puerto Rico serves as a critical stress test for a roster that has, until now, existed primarily as a theoretical juggernaut. International observers point to the specific challenges of the FIBA environment, where the court dimensions and the physical nature of the game often neutralize the advantages of speed and space found in the American Professional League. For a player like Caitlin Clark, whose game relies on deep gravity and transition opportunities, the lack of defensive 3-second violations in the international game means the paint is rarely open. Opposing defenses can park a rim protector in the lane indefinitely, forcing USA Basketball to rely on mid-range efficiency and high-volume perimeter shooting areas where the current roster shows significant variance. This tactical reality places an immense burden on the coaching staff to finalize a rotation that prioritizes chemistry over individual accolades. The Iowa-style offense, which thrives on chaos and quick decision-making, stands in direct contrast to the UConn-style system that Sue Bird and the established leadership have historically championed. The latter emphasizes ball movement, multiple touches per possession, and a high floor for defensive effort. If the assistants stepping in for Kara Lawson lean toward a more rigid, disciplined system, the improvisational brilliance of Clark and the aggressive, second-chance-seeking playstyle of Angel Reese may be suppressed. This creates a potential for a disjointed offensive output, where players appear hesitant to take the shots that made them famous for fear of disrupting the system. Beyond the court, the internal dynamics of the traveling party reflect a shift in how national teams operate. The presence of personal documentary crews and independent media teams following individual players has created a fragmented atmosphere during team travel and media availability. While USA Basketball has traditionally enforced a one-team media policy, the sheer scale of the Clark and Reese brands has made total control impossible. This media saturation has led to what some insiders describe as a bubble within a bubble, where players are insulated by their own management teams even as they share a locker room. The risk is that the collective identity of the squad, once the hallmark of the American program, is being replaced by a collection of individual narratives. The influence of the Golden State Valkyries' Natalie Nakase on the sideline cannot be overlooked in this context. As an assistant who will likely take the clipboard during Lawson's absence, Nakase represents the modern analytical wing of the coaching staff. Her focus on efficiency and defensive rotations may clash with the more traditional player management style of Stephanie White. If the coaching staff is divided on how to handle the star power versus system dilemma, the players will inevitably feel the lack of a unified voice. In international tournaments, where games are played in rapid succession and there is little time for course correction, a leadership vacuum is often the difference between a gold medal and an early exit. Furthermore, the 2026 cycle is occurring against a backdrop of shifting global talent. Countries like France, China, and Belgium no longer view the Americans as invincible. These programs have spent years building continuity with the same core groups of players, while the U.S. roster undergoes constant turnover due to the WNBA schedule and individual health. If the American super team relies solely on talent and marketability, they may find themselves vulnerable to a veteran international squad that excels in the half-court. The narrative that the U.S. can simply show up and win on talent alone is increasingly outdated, and the San Juan qualifiers will provide the first data points on whether this new generation can maintain the standards set by their predecessors. The economic implications for the city of San Juan are also unprecedented. Local organizers have reported ticket sales that exceed any previous women's basketball event in the region's history. However, this surge in demand brings its own set of logistical hurdles, from overwhelmed transportation infrastructure to heightened security protocols at the arena. The tournament is being treated not just as a sporting event, but as a major cultural moment. For the players, this means the noise, both literal and digital, will be constant. The ability to block out the exterior frenzy and focus on the technical requirements of the game will be the ultimate differentiator for the 2026 squad. As the tournament start date approaches, the focus is narrowing toward the first practice sessions on the island. These sessions are closed to the public, but the results will be immediately visible when the first whistle blows. The question is no longer about whether Clark and Reese can coexist, but whether they can contribute to a winning culture that predates their arrival. The weight of the 5 gold medal legacy rests on a group of players who are still learning to speak the same basketball language. If they succeed, it will be the greatest validation of the sport's modern growth. If they fail, the post-mortem will likely center on the very factors that made the team so compelling: the injuries, the institutional biases, and the difficulty of merging distinct basketball worlds under one banner.